What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Wolves Den podcast. I got Ryan here.
How you guys doing?
I got Tiger here.
What's up, guys?
So we're gonna, before we go into this topic or any of our topics today, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. Follow us on Instagram, also at Wolves Den Podcast,
Hell yeah.
and follow us Tactical Inc. So real quick, the last time we left, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Tiger?
Yeah, guys. So I met Eric and Ryan just training jiu-jitsu at the gym. I have a photography background and videography background. I've been working with cameras for 10 years, mostly in the wedding industry. So, you know, that's my jive. That's what I do. I travel all over the place, cover wedding stories, and, capture that big milestone for people in their lives. But yeah, that's just a little bit about what I do as a career. My family's from the Bay Area here, Milpitas, and we ended up in Central Valley, and, I've just been going about life for the last 10 years, picking up the camera, traveling around, and just shooting all kinds of photos. So.
And you're a Niner fan?
And I'm a Niner fan. Yeah,
That's good taste in football.
Yeah, but I got good taste in football.
And Niner fans, why they don't like to work overtime?
Why? Why?
Because they can't handle it.
We don't know the rules.
Set us up for that one. We don't know the rules for overtime. So, okay.
We just want to get paid.
So let's talk about like last time we left off, because we did a video that was a short clip that was talking about human trafficking and talking about some of it, just getting into the I felt like they should bring a lot of the death row back, and send these guys to life in prison by making these women and children forcibly work for them for the human trafficking. So I got a lot of hits on there, a lot of likes, and then there were some comments. And then you also got a comment, right, on your Instagram?
Yeah, I got a comment from, jeez, I should be better about this. I always do this.
You don't have to name the person.
Well, no, it's fine, but I wanted to give her, Sapphire Yoga out of Santa Cruz. I just wanted to give her a
shout out.
Yeah, she hit me up, and it was really cool because it was a DM response to the story that was you talking about exactly what you were saying about the death penalty and just trying to crack down on these pieces of shit. And it was cool just because to get a female in this day and age when people are like, oh, you do a podcast that's only catered to bros or men, and it's nice when you get people out there that are listening what you're doing, and they're from the other side of it, So this is a female, and it's relatable, right? So they understand that's fear they have to deal with that we don't really understand, right? Fear we have for them, but we don't truly understand because we don't feel that way or are put in that situation. But it was cool because it was very supportive of it. And she was like, yeah, 100% I agree with this. We need to crack down and find ways to get rid of these people. And I agree. I think that's the exact way to do it. And it's just nice to hear more people that are gung-ho about a solution instead of just wanting to bicker. Because I feel like a lot of people nowadays just want to bicker and argue, but no one really gives a shit about fixing it. So it's like, oh, cool. You support something that is a solution, and instead of just being like, well, you should really think about, it's just nice to not always hear the contrarian side of things.
Yeah. What's your take on human trafficking?
Well, that's a really big loaded question there to start off with, but it's definitely not okay. It's not something that anybody should be partaking in, and it's something that's a big issue and problem here in the United States, and just having kids be kidnapped and thrown into the human trafficking trade. It's terrible. It's awful and it's sickening. Like you guys were saying, we may never understand what it's like to be on the side of the woman, to be constantly sought out as prey. And I don't want to sound like, I'm trying to make it out to be that women are just preyed on. But, that's the market that human trafficking has become. It's mostly underage girls that get taken advantage of. They get kidnapped, and then they get taken into this world that they probably didn't even know existed because they weren't educated on it at a young age, and then they end up in a place where they've lost years of their lives and become slaves to the sex trade. So we definitely need to work on finding a solution for these kinds of things, and make people more aware of it. So I think it's a topic that a lot of people don't really want to touch on, but it should be discussed more. And in terms of, finding a solution, like you said, I agree with the bringing back the death penalty for these offenders, these guys that go out and, they
I feel like people don't want to touch on it because they're just afraid. Like they're afraid
They're afraid of how they're going to be perceived with their
exactly.
opinion.
Yeah.
Right?
Like there was when I was bounty hunting, we had a case that we had a bunch of fucking crazy cases, but one of them, even when I was in working juvenile probation at juvenile hall, and then when I was a gang prevention specialist, like we had like cases of like human trafficking, and one of them, even like amongst juveniles, like not to like, get really involved, like say too much, but we had a case that where some of them were being human trafficked, but they were actually like, well, what I found out is some of them were going on and they were being exploited on the dating websites, like Tinder, things like that, and they were lying about their ages. So when I heard about, of course we got to make reports for this shit. Mm-hmm. So it's just like that's what they're using. They're using so much more than just, we're gonna pimp them out on the streets. It's like, they're using other avenues to really reach whoever they have to reach. And then the other part was the cases of like some of the girls we arrested that were out on bail when I was a bounty hunter. They were out on bail, and then we would arrest them, but they were being forced to work. But they were so used to of like this lifestyle now because of the drugs, and then what they were afraid of their pimps, of what they were going to do, the repercussions,
like death threats and things like that.
Oh yeah, man, death threats, threatening their family. I mean, one girl we had arrested, she had a broken hip, she can barely walk, and she was being forced to work, but she didn't want, like there was no way out for her.
Yeah,
like she was just going to go to jail. Her lifestyle was this. She didn't eat, so we gave her some food so she could eat, and then we took her to jail. But she had been working on the streets for so long, and then she was so beat up, her pimp had beat her up like that day, and she swore she had a broken hip, so we had to take her to the hospital, get cleared. But I mean, those things you just see, like it's like coming right back onto the streets. If you go like even down South Salinas, we had a bunch of bail cases down there. Bounty hunting late at night. We're working late at night in the streets of Salinas. Even some of the Salinas PD cops could tell you that, they have the prostitutes just walking, and the pimps are just like out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Frisco too, San Francisco, down the Tenderloin, those areas. The human trafficking is huge. And then you have all these other groups that are out there that are human trafficking. These girls are just on the lookout. They're watching.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, when we had some of those cases, pretty deep fucking involved in trying to find them. When you're trying to arrest, prostitutes are the hardest ones to arrest because you just don't know exactly where they're going to be at. But they're using Craigslist, they're using the dating websites to advertise themselves for escorting, these type of things that are all being used to Facebook, Instagram, I mean, you name it, Snapchat. I mean, all these, any type of social media, it's what they're being used to advertise themselves, and that these traffickers are taking them and using them. And then we don't see them. They never fucking come back hardly from it.
So you just probably go to a different city or something?
Different city, they'll be moved around.
Yeah.
They get moved around.
Yep.
And it's hard to track them.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like a fucking, I mean, obviously, but it's like it is an underground network.
Oh,
like now you're gonna go.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna go work at our sister state location over in Omaha.
So the reason I talk
ship
so
you
much
out to-
about it is I talk about it because when I was living in the city, 2 guys had followed my daughter. 2 men followed my daughter, and I remember her being so fucking scared. And my son happened to be with her, and when I went out there to approach these motherfuckers, San Jose PD probably came out, and so when they had told me if I were to touch them, because they didn't touch her yet or take her, if I was to touch them, I would be charged with assault.
Yes.
Because they didn't do anything yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because following them doesn't make it a crime.
Yeah.
So I got to wait until they touch my kid, in order for it to.
Because according to them, it'd be hearsay.
Yeah, I mean, but any man, thinking with your kids, like you want to protect your child.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you want to protect your child.
I don't have kids of my own yet, but when I think about my nieces and nephews and the kids in my family, that's the first instinct as a man is to protect those children.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, like I said, I don't have children of my own yet, but, if I were to hear of those things happening to my niece, I would be in that same position where it's like your reaction is, well, I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect my child or to protect this member of my family. And, I think a lot of the times it's crazy to think that we probably witness somebody who's a victim of human trafficking on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis if we go out in public settings.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what that person sitting on the BART train is going through. Like if the person next to her that the person sitting next to her might be her pimp, might be just keeping this person in silence. Because you hear stories of girls who are they get to the absolute lowest point, and they start calling, like reaching out and asking for help in public settings, and like writing a message on a napkin, trying to get help, seeking out help. That's why it's so important to bring more awareness to the matter, and to keep our eyes open and have our eyes always open, looking out for these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Because you never know, you could be saving someone's life in that moment.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah, well, that's why I think like preventative measures aren't just on like gonna be like laws. It needs to be like citizens and people themselves, like you said, education. So you got to educate your kids, you got to educate your wives, everyone needs to be educated, because at the end of the day, like, even if you're not the subject of the kidnapping, you should know that it's a possibility. You got to help stop it. So, just like, even when I walk my son to school, he's 6, right?
Yeah.
And I think I see a lot of parents, and they don't like hold their kids' hands and shit. And that's cool. And I'm going to let him tell me when he's like over it. Cause I even asked him the other day, I was like, do you like hold my hand? Cause I'm just waiting for him to be like,
Yeah,
it's okay. Or no, I know you like it. And then when he says that, I'll be like, you don't have to. But like, he's still like happy. So I'm like, one, as a dad, I'm like, I'll hold on to that as long as I can. Cause I don't, them growing up too fast type shit. But also I'm like, cool. Cause I know if I'm holding on to you and I know where you are, you're safe.
yeah.
And I see so many fucking parents, dude, that are just don't give a fuck. Like, I know when we were growing up, right? It was different. So like, it wasn't that our parents didn't give a fuck. It just was like, it just was different. And I know every generation says that, but it really is true. Like, you didn't hear about all these kids disappearing and all these problems, and I'm seeing like even lazier parenting nowadays with all the education, all the awareness, all the publicity that all this bad stuff gets. People still just, like, they really need to face the music sometimes before they fucking change, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think, once again, it's like, that's why I just do what I can. Fuck the norm. Fuck what everyone else thinks you should do. Do what you think you should do. Follow your gut. If something tells you this person is weird, then just immediately leave. Like, you don't need to make a reason. If you do need to make a reason, that's a whole nother discussion probably on what are good things to say and what aren't. But it's just, most of the time, just walk away. Just get the fuck out of there. Because the less you say, the less they got their hooks in. The more you give them excuses, the more they start digging and prying, because those people are good at talking. So I feel like as soon as you can shut them down, if you feel like this guy's a piece of shit, like you're creeping me out, just fucking leave. You got no obligation to talk to people.
That's right.
Yeah.
But easier said than done for me, in my perspective. I understand that, but I still think that needs to be the attitude, at least. And then, because man,
just like all of us, we all train to protect our families. We all train jiu-jitsu, martial arts to protect our families, to get better at this, not just for competition. For me, competition is, I push that to the side. I'd rather just know that I have the abilities to protect my family, right? Competing, it's cool. But at the other time, like, just knowing that I can do what I can do, move my body to protect my family if I have to, shit hits the fan. I'm not going to take multiple guys down in jiu-jitsu, but I'm fucking swinging for the fences, and whoever it takes down, you're going to get hurt. Yep. And I think that, we need more volunteer groups, like, jiu-jitsu schools, MMA schools, like, to offer some free services for human trafficking victims, or just for like general people like that can't afford it. Like, open like different areas.
What's crazy too is, like, I was talking to Jeff, and he's saying even the police don't want to pay for the police to be trained.
Yeah, I mean, we do.
It's nuts. So it's like all the money they get, I'm not saying it's a lot or it's a little, but it's like it should be invested properly, and adequately training your forces is like should be your main priority. Because those are the people upholding your laws and keeping people safe and keeping themselves safe and their partners safe and all that shit, which is super important. Yeah. And when you send these guys out with no training and they're wielding a gun or they're responsible for someone else's life, I'm just saying it's a problem. So I think, like you said, across the board, I think people need to take a look and be like, look, if you don't want to do it, at least try a class out or do something that at least, because it's not just jiu-jitsu that can help you out. Yeah. Boxing,
any type of
Muay
self-defense,
Thai,
martial art,
judo, even karate. I mean, I wouldn't say Aikido, but some people say it works.
Any little thing could help.
Anything.
You just never know.
Also, just being active. Like if you go out and exercise and you can actually do a push-up and propel yourself, like there you go. Yeah. You're better than a lot of other people out there.
That's true. Like you think about how dependent our society has become on others, right? So we think, okay, if we're in trouble, somebody's going to come save us, but nobody's going to save you. Nobody's going to come in fast enough in a split second to come save you in a situation where you're actually in danger.
And most people are holding cameras that we rather record than come to
exactly. Yeah, because everybody is so wrapped up and consumed with media, especially social media, right? Yeah. So it's big. And that we take the time to take ourselves away from that, take ourselves away from social media, actually go out and meet your neighbor, talk to people in your neighborhood and get to know them it's going to take you so much further in life to actually lend your ear to get to know someone and for them to also get to know you versus what you're just seeing on your phone. Yeah. We're so wrapped up in our screens, so wrapped up in what we see on social media on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of these things that we forget that our day-to-day life is as soon as we open our eyes and wake up. If the first thing you're doing when you wake up is picking up your phone just to get on social media, I think you got it wrong. Yeah. Like myself, I wake up, I give myself a moment to just like, for me, I don't want to push religion on anyone, but for me, it's a moment with God. That's what I believe in. And then I go down and I go about my day and fix myself breakfast. And I talk, I start reaching out and talking to my family and friends. Like how often do people actually pick up the phone and call one another and ask, hey, how are you doing? Like everybody just thinks that they can glorify their life on social media, but it's not everything that's projected on there. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's not reality. Like,
it's a very minimal effort at a relationship.
Yeah. Like, like I know even on myself, like I can say I'm guilty. I share good moments of my life on social media. But when it comes down to talking to people and giving my testimony, I'm happy to share the bad and the things that I've gone through, the things that, shaped me and developed me as a young man, so that's where I think people need to be more. If people were more vulnerable, and they were willing to share and open up about those things, then society would be in a better place. Because, everybody's fallen into a comfort zone.
So this kind of pushes where that, it kind of goes into that. My next thing I was going to say is that we had a comment on there where the guy was like, "Oh, it's already bad, bro. Like California." Well, it's like they don't realize that it's bad right now, but it's about to get a lot fucking worse. Mm-hmm. Like one thing, bail's going away, the right to bail. So if the government's pretty much taken it upon itself to get arrested, you're going to see a judge, and then from there you go see a caseworker who's going to determine. I forgot the name what they do, but they determine like where you're supposed to check in with them before court and stuff like that. So you don't really have a bill. The bill's still here, but you won't really have a bill.
So it's more like an assembly line to put people away,
or they're just letting people out,
or the other way. The last one,
either
letting them in or funneling them out.
Kind of just get released back into
society, and then we have people coming out of the prison system who are just being let out on all these AB different plans they have going on. Like I remember back then we had AB 109 where they're just letting prisoners out, AB 109. But you have these different ones, and it's just like it's going to get a lot worse. I mean, you have the drug problem. Mm-hmm. The drugs are getting a lot fucking worse. You have the crime. Everyone it's just a repeating cycle. If you're not holding them in jail, holding them accountable, they're just getting right out and they're recommitting crimes again. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many people I've arrested personally that are in and out of that circle.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
It's a fucking cycle.
Well, it's yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean,
in and out. I arrested
Well,
one
you know-
girl like 4 fucking times, and I knew exactly where to find her every fucking time, and all
So-
her charges were drugs.
Yep, Eric, my brother, when he was before he died of his overdose, he was in and out of jail. He had been arrested over 50 times.
Yeah.
Down in LA, he had been arrested over 50 times. He never, our family did everything we could. We tried to check him into a rehabilitation center. My parents went about putting forth the money to get him help and seek treatment. But I don't understand how the system could constantly arrest him and release, and thinking that was going to give him like relief or better his situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so when we say we need more programs to help, like to help these guys, what are we going to do here? Are we just gonna keep arresting these repeat drug offenders where they don't need to be in prison? They need medical help, right? Like they need medical and they need a lot more help than
yeah, they definitely need medical help and some insight on that too, because our buddy Dylan is a medic.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling me, and I think I told you guys this before too, that the rehab facilities are like a fucking joke. The way they're run, similar to that whole thing, it's almost like catch and release in a way.
Yeah.
And it's just there's so the nurse to patient ratio is so bad that it's just there's so much neglect. So it's basically it's not even it's almost non-existent the way it's being run, which is another thing. So I think not only do we need these programs implemented, but these things need to be remanaged and restructured because clearly they're just not functioning properly. Like everything you just said about the system with the courts and the jails and all that needs to get figured out. But then it just needs an overhaul with the rehabs.
Yeah, full overhaul,
what the
whole
hell are we
prison
doing?
system
Like,
and our
it's
rehabs.
so fucked. The problem is it's so much connected with money.
It is all connected to money. I mean, think about this:
So
how many
reforming
people here in the United States are waking up day to day without health insurance?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's like where they can't even seek out help for basic needs because the way the system's ran and structured, it's all based on just greed and money.
Yeah.
Like where do we go from there? Why do we not look at other countries and how they go about doing things and try to implement their ways of doing things into our own country? It's a pretty messed up system. Like to know like, oh, I can't go to the dentist or I can't go see a doctor. I can't, I have to carry so much pain because I don't have insurance available to me.
Well, you're going to have people, this is going back to what we talked about real quick, what you had said about the drugs and then you losing your brother. You're going to have people on the other side watching this. Are going to be like, what did the family do? Right. Mm-hmm. So real quick, if you can just kind of give your insight on that. Because I know, like, I lost my dad to overdose, my biological dad to an overdose. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I know that we tried everything we could as a family, and my grandma tried everything she could as a family, but my dad was so far gone, and he was such a repeat offender in and out of jail. There was times where I thought I was going to end up arresting my own father.
Wow. Yeah.
But or seeing my dad out there when I was in homeless encampments arresting someone.
Yeah.
So I know, like, we did everything we could, but when someone's so addicted, I feel like the help is like you can. It's pretty much just like you're talking to a wall.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It very much is. It's like you no longer can give them money because it's just going to go towards their habit and their drug, drug use, and their addiction. You can't provide shelter because, you do provide shelter, and then if that person is seeking out drugs, to satisfy their addiction, how do you shelter a person that's struggling with their addiction? Are they going to start going through your belongings and going through your things and stealing from you so they can satisfy that craving and need?
Yeah.
And unfortunately those kinds of things do happen.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things do happen. I mean, I can tell from knowing that's my brother, he was my older brother, and I knew him as a person before the addiction and before, him going spiraling and going down that path. And he was a good person. He just made bad choices, and it got so bad to the point where he craved and needed it every single day. And he was choosing to live on the streets and be homeless because his body was it needed the drugs.
Yeah.
It needed the drugs. Our family, they did. I mean, I feel like my dad and my mom, they would give everything for their kids, and they have.
Yeah.
I have to constantly remind them, nobody wants to ever have to go through that hardship of having to bury their own child. That's a burden I don't wish on anyone. And to watch that happen within our family, that's a really tough thing to see.
Yeah.
Because I think when that does happen, a lot of people, they start to feel guilt as if they are at fault for that happening. But I mean, my dad's a blue collar worker. He gets up every day, 4 a.m, sometimes even earlier, commutes to the Bay Area, will do a 16 to 18 hour day as an electrician and come back home and make sure that his family is provided for.
Yeah.
That's just how my dad rolls. That's how he's got down his whole life. My mom too. My mom, she was a laborious worker. She worked, shipping and receiving for United Airlines, and then she transitioned and did that same type of job for Sutter Health. She worked like a man. She moving pallets around, getting the hospital all of their supplies, breaking her back, like literally breaking her back for her kids. And I have a lot of respect for my parents because they went above and beyond and gave us the best life that they could.
Yeah.
So
I feel like even with some of the families I've spoken to, like even doing gang stuff, or working in the juvenile probation part, the juvenile hall, like they get to the point where they're so working so much, especially like the city I grew up was a lot of migrant families.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like everyone's working. They're either working in the fields or they're working, constantly working. So the kids are just kind of running around doing what they want while their parents are working so hard. So they get involved with like the wrong crowd. You get involved with the gangs, get involved with the drugs.
Yep.
Because there's parents are just so busy trying to provide a life, and they come here hoping for a future. And then the kids get caught up in this cycle.
They're so busy working that it's hard for them to actually be present to parent, right? Like in a sense. Because I think about that. Like my parents were out of the house a lot, working. Like all of us siblings, we kind of had, we still had our parents there to teach us right from wrong and to show us, values and morals. But they did have to go to work every single day so that way they could provide for us.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying there. Like migrant families, they're working laborious jobs in the fields and stuff. How are they there to actually parent those kids who may be getting influenced by their friends at school to join a gang?
Yeah.
They're not able to sit down one-on-one with them.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. My mom sat me down when I was 12 years old, and she said, "Tiger, you have an addictive personality based on, what I've gone through in my life and what your biological father has gone through in his life. You need to watch out, and you need to take care of yourself, and you need to be aware of your surroundings."
Yeah.
So my mom sat me down at a very young age and she said, like, if there's anything you ever think about trying or wanting to do, like, don't be afraid to consult us and to talk to us. And like, don't let the influence of those around you pressure you into making those choices. Just know you always have a place here and you always have a home.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me because, I grew up in Modesto. My parents are from the Bay Area. I spent my early childhood in the Bay Area in Milpitas, but I grew up in Modesto, and Modesto is not you go to downtown Modesto, it's infested with methamphetamine. It's not the best place to grow up and raise a family. But when you have the whole tech boom happening and you have middle class families like my own, where they have no choice, they're being forced out and pushed out to go live in a town like Modesto. That's just the way the cards were dealt. That you have to roll with it, roll with the punches, and go with it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, we're back from a bathroom break. Too much alcohol, too much soda.
Or just the right amount.
Let's get back into it. Thank you guys for tuning in. So what do you guys think about the human trafficking, the viewers in there, or the drugs? Please drop a comment below and let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, what do you guys think? Tell us what you think about the fentanyl crisis and opioids and, where we are currently with health insurance in America. I'm sure a lot of people are a lot of people would agree that things are not going the way that they should be.
Let us know how your changes, how you feel like change should be. Like what changes California need to make. Because we're definitely...
And limit it to 120 characters because we don't have all day and we're the server space. So please be mindful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... Yeah. Thank you guys.
Throw some lighthearted shit in there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure. Shoot.
I got a random question to kind of pivot, but we were talking just a little bit ago about not tagging your location in social media posts because of being not fear of it, just being targeted. Just not fear. It will happen.
Yeah.
So what? Can you elaborate more on like that whole idea or just how things work that way? And
yeah, Eric, like in your field of work, that you were in previously, did it open up your eyes to certain precautions you have to take because you were working with criminals, people who might seek a vengeance against you and your family for seeking out justice.
Yeah, I so like for me, like I don't like to give my locations. I'm very like discreet. I like to protect my family because I am, like it's not like I'm afraid because I'm prepared myself. I train like every day, and the things I do to train is prepare myself for the worst case scenario or situations. And then I have my dogs also, not just my firearms, but my dogs that I know they're going to have my back. But I mean, the people
he's
that
not talking about us. He's talking about actual dogs.
Yeah, real canines. So it's like more like you fuck around, you're gonna find out, But but I have people who I can call if shit hits the fan, like who are still working, not just the job I did, but actual like that are really deep in law enforcement. So I'm not aware. The fear is always in the back of your head. Like I don't sit my back to the door. I've never done that. Just because the jobs, even like with juvenile probation, it's like. When I was working in the juvenile probation department, like in the hall part-time, it was just like, we just always knew, like there was discussions of like how to protect yourself. And then when I was doing the gang prevention stuff, it was the same thing, like just keep the identity low. That's why I don't talk too much about that specific job because there was contracts and documents that were signed, but it was just always being careful,
keeping your wits about yourself and just having not beyond common sense, just knowing like, okay, I'm interacting with criminals and people who are out committing injustices.
One thing I always did learn is that from the point of just working the size I did with either being on the bail side or doing the probation, the gang stuff, was that it was keeping the amount of respect on the streets.
Yep.
So when I was arresting somebody, it was always like having that respect. I mean, there were some people that were just like, fuck you, they didn't care. They're just like, fuck you. I hate you. I'm going to fucking find you and your family. I mean, I got death threats all the fucking time. Mm-hmm. Especially like I told the last story where I arrested this dude who had family up in a certain part of Mexico. And I got a call from Mexico that were threatening me, my family. And that I took very serious.
Oh yeah,
because
you have to.
Yeah, it's just like you threaten my family, I'm going to take it very serious, But I only let certain people, close friends, come to my home.
Thank you.
Even my business, like with my business that I have, it's like I will like if you're coming to me for a certain amount of training, like I'm going to know who you are before I even come talk to you, because first and foremost is my safety and my family's safety.
Yep.
So I'm not going to just put myself out there. And then like even the gyms I train, like I choose them specifically so I know exactly what I'm walking into.
Yeah.
Like before I went to the gym I go to now, like I did all my research on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because that's like I'm going to do my research, who's there, who's training, and like scope it out, look at the pictures, make sure that I'm walking into a safe place, that I'm not putting myself in a situation where I can't get out of.
Puts you in jeopardy or puts your family in jeopardy.
Oh yeah, dude. I went to a tattoo shop
way.
one time and like I got hit up at a tattoo shop and I couldn't even get a fucking tattoo. You know, like it was a bad situation. I was like waiting for a tattoo, and I got surrounded. And I was like, fuck, trying to talk myself out of it. You know, I had nothing on me, no weapons, no gun, no nothing, no pocket knife, nothing. And I'm fucking being surrounded. And, you know, like luckily there was a family leaving. I just walked out with the family. Just because if they knew something was going to happen, that family would be a witness to it.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, oh, here's my opportunity. I'm going to walk out with them. And there was kids and shit, so I just walked out with them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was pretty sketchy, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so like I'm not going to put myself in those situations. Like I'm always going to watch myself. Like even now, I just stay with my friends, like certain friends, you guys, or certain people. I will never put myself, and I'm older, so I'm not like going out partying,
Right.
or anything like that. My main thing is just training.
Yeah.
That's my lifestyle. But there's a lot of people who are like in law enforcement, or even like bounty hunters, or any type of contractor jobs, even the military guys. They never like really say their locations, what they're doing.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
It's just funny because it's like
Social media is big.
Well, nowadays, people all want to know what are you doing? Where are you at?
Yeah.
Who are you with? You know, everybody wants to know, and I think we've lost. You know, we've given up our own privacy.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to respect privacy anymore. It's like sometimes people, you know, a lot of times it's better to just leave people alone.
we de-glamorize privacy. That's the problem.
De-glamorize privacy,
so like the main thing like is really just even myself, like having to have a podcast the last several years on and off, but I've been doing it right myself, and I sound like Trump. I said myself 3 times, but but what I'm trying to say is my mindset has had to shift into content, location, share, and I hate it. I'm like, I don't like doing it, but I had to kind of like boot camp myself to like always do it, tag the place, tag it. But then like you bring perspective to it. Now I'm just like, damn. And it's like I'm older, you know. I'm not trying to be a TikToker. Obviously, I'm not.
A social media influencer.
Who would have given that away? But it's just like, damn, dude, yeah.
See, like
fuck that. But that's the problem is when you're playing into things that are like a podcast or something like that, or you have a project or like a business. It's like you have to play the algorithm game, which is the more you share and the more active you are, the more they put your shit out there, which is total bullshit.
Yeah.
But that's the name of the game, and that's everything, including LinkedIn, Indeed, and even job application sites. If you're not always applying, they're not going to give your shit's not going to be as heavily prioritized, and you're not going to be showing up in job listings as applicants.
Yeah.
Like that's how they there is a hierarchy even with job sites.
Yeah, if you're working these, like, to go back to it, like if you're working these jobs like in law enforcement or any type of contracting job, and if you're putting your fucking guard down, you're an idiot. Like there's motherfuckers out there like in prison who are like constantly thinking how to up it, you know, like to get to the next part. Like even when I worked in the juvenile hall part, like they knew when we're walking down the fucking hall, they can hear the fucking keychain rattling. They fucking knew, like, oh, okay, so and so's walking down here right now because of certain keychains. Like if I had, they have nothing to do but to think all day. And the worst ones are the ones in the juvenile hall because they're trying to make a name for themselves to get to fucking prison and jail, right? The ones that are doing life, they think like I have nothing else to lose in prison. I can do this and that. But the ones who are also getting out are the ones who are realizing I have something to lose. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it's just like you just never know. They're thinking all day, 24/7. You know?
They got nothing but time on their hands.
Nothing but time.
Nothing but time.
You know?
Just sitting there in a cell, and you know, you're just studying your surroundings, and I'm sure, you know, they can hear the gait in a person's walk. Yeah. So, you know, when a person's walking, you know, a certain way, or you know, you can tell the speed of a person's, like, every person walks at a different pace. Yeah. Right. So if they can time the rattling of the keys, that's I never thought about that. I never thought that a person would sit and do that. But when you say that, like when you have nothing to do, but you have nothing but time, and all you do is be aware of your surroundings.
And they don't even know what time it is because they don't have a clock in their room.
Yeah.
You know?
That's crazy.
They would ask us, like, what time is it?
Yeah.
You know, because they're timing every fucking thing.
Yeah.
Not just that, like half the time of like doing the bounty stuff, the other part of it is like having to go into people's homes, they feel disrespected. Or if you're doing something to get that person, and where it's just like a setup to catch that person, where sometimes your job's, you're doing certain things to get that person to come to this area so you can arrest them. That like alone is going to piss them off. Like, you fucking did this, or, so I can come here so you can arrest me.
Well, do people get like that with the cops? So they're going to be even worse with you. Yeah, with bounty hunters for sure.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, these guys are not fucking law enforcement, so fuck him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wonder if it's even more of a fuck you or a little less of a fuck you. But either way, you're in their house, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're in your house. I mean,
it don't matter. Get the fuck out of my house.
Kicking a door in, they have to replace that shit. And they're pissed off. They're not happy with you, and they fucking hate you. But at the same time, like, I was trained to like talk it out, try to figure a way out of it, try to figure a way to arrest them without causing super like huge
altercation or problem.
There's people out there who are just going to cause altercations no matter what you do. Like, they're dramatic about it. So yeah, it's always a line of respect.
Have there been instances, Eric, where you actually do, like, a person gets arrested and they do get rehabilitated and they do go enter back into society, and you like hear of this or witness this?
Yeah, I actually arrested an engineer one time, and he went to school, was an engineer, very successful, and then he got into drugs, and then he started hanging out with the wrong crowd, then he started going to jail, then he got into the gangs, and then his life started going down the wrong path. And he was a family man, talking to everybody before that. He was a family man who just happened to go down the wrong fucking path. And then arrested him, and as soon as we arrested him, he went to jail for a while and came back out, and I ran into him again at a store, and first thing he did was give me a hug. It was like, can I just hug you? Because I just want to thank you for arresting me, for making me realize like I needed help.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was like very like, what the fuck?
Like humbling.
I didn't want you to tell you. Like, at first I was thrown off.
Okay,
like,
that's funny that you say that, because like, I mean, I know that like the church that I go to, right? There are guys there that like, there's a guy at my church. He's one of the greeters at my church.
Yeah.
But he was a former gang member, and he did a lot of time in prison, and he came to Christ, and he turned his life around, and he was entered back into society. And that's the thing, is like, I think, like, I understand you've seen the crazy side of things. You've seen like, you've been in situations where you've seen the worst in people, but just to hear you share a story of someone who, actually came to and came to their senses and was able to come back into society and be normal again, to know right from wrong. That's uplifting. That's good to know.
I'm a firm believer. Like, I would talk to a lot of people that are arrested. I'm a firm believer that people can change.
Oh yeah.
People have to want to change. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
they have to want to change.
At the end of the day.
Yes.
And we all have families, but they have to want to change. And I'm a firm believer that people can change if they really want to.
Yep.
Like, just because we're at your door and we're arresting you right now doesn't mean tomorrow you can't change, and that you can't get out of this situation, and you can't do your time and just get out and change your life around and never want to go back again.
Yeah. We're all human, dude.
That's
and
right.
Here's the other thing. Some of the coolest people I know were on federal parole at one time in their life. So, I'll say it. I worked in a kitchen when I was younger, and I remember one time, I was like 21, making soups in the morning, and I used to work with this dude who was on federal parole, coolest guy ever, and he was locked up in Leavenworth, and he was telling me all kinds of crazy stories back in the day, but he grew up out in the Bay, and anyway, he's this OG dude, super cool, but one day, he wasn't at work, and this is the first time I ever seen U.S. Marshals, and came about 12 of them. Yeah. Walked into the building, and back door and front door. And the way they came in, like you just said, like fucking ninjas. Yeah. It was like they weren't undercover or hidden, but how the hell did you guys get here so quickly?
They're the best, man.
But like so they were looking for them.
Law enforcement.
Yeah. And but yeah, dude, it was crazy. Like, I'll never forget that day. I was just making soups and stirring onions with butter, and all I just see is like a bunch of badges and dudes walking around like Walker Texas Ranger, and I'm like, You don't see rangers that often in California. So I was just like, what the fuck?
fucking
Or
serious
like,
as shit,
or
huh?
marshals, not rangers, no, marshals.
How
But yeah.
serious did it look?
Oh, there was nothing. I mean, they were looking for someone, and they were going to find them. That's the look they had on their faces.
They look like normal
Probably
people.
like when you would go out on another job. Like,
Yeah.
it was just like you had a mission, and that was your mission.
Yeah.
And it was weird though because it felt organized, and you felt a lot of level of respect. And you were like, okay, I don't want to mess with these guys, and I'm just going to do what I do, and I'm just pretend like I don't exist. But you know, it was like kind of crazy,
business,
man.
yeah.
Like. And he was a good guy, even though I'm admitting a time where apparently the story was he had a crazy wife, and she called his PO on him for some BS. I don't know if any of that's true.
Well,
I
those
do
guys
know
are
domestic lives, domestic situations. Like
Domestic
it takes
violence
two
and
to
stuff,
tango.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
no, it
like-
takes two to tango is what I'm trying to say. Is so it's like. I'm not saying he wasn't a bad guy, and I'm not saying she was a good guy, is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know what I mean? And the court and the legal system is always going to side with the woman.
Yeah.
Not to say that
Yeah,
they're
for
not
the
the
most
ones
part,
getting beat
yeah.
up, like we were talking about earlier. But
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in there's two sides of the story, and like you just said, people can change. And some of the coolest people I've ever met in my life, and guys that educate. And to me, I judge you as a good person when you want to teach people.
Yeah.
If you're willing to educate someone on something as simple as just like a life lesson, or hey, like you said earlier, like talk about things you've done wrong to make something positive come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm getting a good vibe off that, you're a good person. You might have not, like you just said, you made bad choices, but that doesn't mean you're a bad. Your decisions don't define who you are.
No,
You know,
yeah.
and
Your morale and your character.
I know that if
but
you
situationally, you have to go with things based on
I mean,
what
I'm-
things are.
I've
well, if
made
you have the
bad
marshals
decisions.
after you fucked up.
No, I know that. No, I know that. I mean, I got his back. He's my boy. But I'm just saying, I'm glad I don't know all the facts. I'm glad I'm in the dark about
Yeah,
a
you
lot of
fucked
it.
up.
But yeah, no, for sure. And even if it was nothing, when they're after you, you're going back.
Yeah, all those guys,
he-
they don't play.
And that's what bummed me out, and that was the last time I saw him,
Yeah.
and it bummed me out. And he was an OG. He was older, so it might have been strike number 3. Hopefully, you're out there. I don't want to say your name or anything.
Hopefully you're
but
still cooking. But
Hopefully,
outside.
hopefully you're enjoying your life.
He was doing independent car sales. He was a cool guy. I liked
Yeah.
him.
Oh, man.
Everything sounds bad when I'm trying to plug him in a positive way, and none of it's coming out greatly positive. But
Yeah.
great person.
Do you guys want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, I got to take a piss. So it's
Brought
time to
you
wrap
by,
this shit up.
Brought to you by Jim Beam.
Yeah,
Beam.
brought to you by Jim Beam. So, but
Best
yeah.
comes out. So real quick, our next topic we'll talk about on our next podcast. We'll go into the marijuana scene. Talk about some of the marijuana stuff that's been happening. with
Hopefully,
the
I can learn a
laws,
lot.
different laws. So hopefully we can learn a lot from you.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's going to be interesting because
I'm gonna bring a joint. We're all gonna smoke it.
yeah. Ryan will bring a joint, and I might take a
fucking
poof.
I'm fucking around.
Nah.
I'll stick to the Jim Beam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stick to the Jim Beam. Probably won't be any left, but
Well, the subject matter, guys, for next time is how
Ryan's
marijuana.
expertise.
What was that? Yeah, how marijuana has changed and shifted, how the industry's evolved, and then like the potency of the marijuana now versus like 12 to 14 years ago. I was smoking weed when I was 14 years old, and the shit I was smoking when I was 14 years old.
some of that White Widow. I don't
Yeah,
know.
some of that.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I've
some
We didn't
of
know,
the
though. We
white-
didn't know.
Honestly, I've never really got involved with that stuff.
That's
Like,
good.
I
I mean,
mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it's
is good.
yeah.
Good and bad.
Good.
I'm not good at
Hey,
good and
everybody,
whatever.
like we
but-
said, everybody's made
Different
decisions
strokes.
and choices,
Yeah.
and everybody's has their own testimony. But we'll hear more about it from Ryan's perspective, from mine, and
So
yeah,
get
from
ready,
You
Eric's.
can
everybody.
educate
Get
me.
ready,
on it.
everybody. Yeah, yeah.
So homework, watch a lot of Half Baked and
yeah, watch.
I want to do some yoga. There you
Well,
go.
half bakes with
That's Dave Chappelle. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that when I was.
that's
in
a
high
good
school.
one.
Great.
It's a
Then
good
they
one.
had that one bar, that one. Yeah, it was
Abba
like
Zabba.
Abba Zabba. Yeah, yeah.
My only friend.
Yeah. All right,
So
guys.
Half Baked and maybe Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, all right.
So Ryan's expertise is going to come out next time and start getting away from the bounty hunting stuff and talk about a little bit about some fun stuff he's experienced with marijuana.
Hell yeah. I'm coming out. Later, guys.
All right, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and like.